If my clients think that I'm brutally honest about real estate, they haven't met this guy.
I told him, I said, I thought it'd be like worth about 750. And he was like, oh, I was really thinking $1 million. And I'm like, well, is there some gold buried in the backyard?
Why the problem isn't with buyers and sellers, it's with agents.
They're willing to even throw their own clients under the bus to try to get a deal done.
And are high interest rates really a problem?
And I tell my buyers all day long, I'll take a 20% interest rate, gladly, and not overpay on a property.
Thank you. Yeah.
By $70,000.
Yeah. Up next, the agent with no filter. From my team, Dylan Seurer. So today I'm joined by my number one sales associate with Wade Hansen and Associates, Dylan Seurer. Dylan, I think we're celebrating our 5-year anniversary here soon.
I think it's
the two of us.
I think it's 6.
Is it 6 years? Oh,
I think so.
Yeah. I'm not good at that stuff. So I'm not sure. Is it diamonds for 6 years or what is it?
I don't know.
Anyway, I want to have you on. I had you on a couple of years ago. We talked more about just us and who we are and how we operate as a team. I want to talk more just about the real estate market. The real estate market's so, I keep using the terms uncertain, complex, but yet you're probably having one of your best years ever. It's busy for the two of us. We just sat down. We've hardly seen each other the last 6 weeks because we've both been running opposite directions, busy. And this is typically the summer slump of real estate. What are you seeing out there? What's the year been like for you so far? And kind of what's your temperature of the market right now?
So yeah, listings. So normally I'm a little more like 50-50, might be a little more higher on the buy side, repping more buyers and sellers. But this year I've listed way more properties than ever. So like percentage wise, a lot of people are moving. So people are buying. The interest rates don't seem to be deterring people too bad. They're going up, but so is rent. So, people are, there's less bidding wars. They're still out there on a lot of properties, but it seems like there's 2 or 3 offers that come in on a lot of these. It's not 30, like 2 years ago. So yeah, I think people are getting, maybe better value on their on their purchases, the buyers. But it seems like on all the listings that I have, they're selling for great prices above list. So it's just a weird market.
Yeah, we just talked about, you listed one like in Lakeland for like 5.25, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you have like 25, 30 showings and it sold for cash over ask in a day?
Yeah, 2 days I had like 25 showings and I had 2 open houses and I had 30 some groups through those open houses. So yeah, and that sold 540 cash, no inspections.
Quick close.
Yep.
Done.
Yep. In and out.
Yeah, so. And you had a townhome that went quickly. You've sold over $3 million property this year on the river. You've kind of had all, I guess, facets of the business coming at you this year, and I feel like nothing's changed for you. I see a lot of these agents really struggling right now, but you're not. You seem to be really powering through whatever uncertain times we're in right now. And I think, I've said this before, I think we're in a recession. How that's affected real estate, I think, remains to be seen. I guess, what have been some of your biggest challenges right now with some of these buyers and sellers? Is there anything you're having to overcome that you're just having more success with than maybe other agents? And I'll give you an example for me right now, just to kind of lead into that. For sellers, I think it's expectations, right? I think a lot of sellers have the expectation of, this is still COVID, this is still those 2.5 years we had of just, it goes on the market, it sells overnight. We just gave an example of one of yours selling, which I think is pretty unique and rare. That doesn't happen all the time, but setting the expectation of, look, it's going to take 2, maybe 4 weeks to sell. We may have to talk about a price reduction after 2 weeks on the market, and just really being upfront with those expectations. And even when you set them, they'll sit there for 2 weeks and wonder why it hasn't sold. And, my neighbors a year ago sold for this and overnight had multiple offers. What did they do that you're not doing? And so on and so forth. That's for me the biggest challenge. I don't know what you're seeing.
So, I think I'm like you. I don't sugarcoat anything ever. So I was just talking to friends yesterday and I said, I'm not any different in front of clients. Like, I am who I am with you guys is who I am with them.
Yeah.
And I think that leads me to not having too many difficulties with my buyers and sellers. Like, I don't sugarcoat it. I'm very honest with them. Like, you don't get to pick the price. I don't get to pick the price. The market's going to determine the price. And I just educate my buyers really well. And like, I just got a text a couple days ago from one of my buyers who got an accepted offer in St. Paul. And they're like, we're so happy to be working with you, and we're so glad we met you. And I hear that all the time. Like, someone's like, I'm so glad I came into your open house and met you and you helped us through all this, And so my biggest challenges are with other realtors, I would say, because I feel like my buyers and sellers are always on the same page as me with what's expected, what are you gonna have to do? Won't overprice your listing. It's just not what I'll do. I'll let someone else, run in circles on your overpriced listing. I was at a listing appointment last week. I told him, I said, I thought it'd be like worth about $750. And he was like, oh, I was really thinking $1 million. And I'm like, well, is there some gold buried in the backyard? I mean, I'm not going to be invested. I'm not going to spend a ton of time, a ton of money and, and get our team involved, with everything if you're not invested in selling your house. And that's why my listings sell as fast as they do with such great high offers that are clean, no inspections, they're still waiving everything. So, I mean, and I just tell them if it's worth more, our offers will tell us that. And so, I mean, I feel like I really don't have any sellers or buyers that I have in the past, but I mean, just this whole year, I feel like everybody's been we're on the same page with everything. Yeah. And the market and the reality of the market and how it's going, And even though, they might look at the trends and see the news and things, like I had a really unusual property in North Hudson that's 725, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a tough property to sell, and we got agents in there and it never hit the market and it sold, and I thought that property would be one that was sitting for weeks, so it's just other agents that don't know what they're doing, and other agents that are messing things up or just making huge or minor mistakes that still have to be fixed. And so that's I would say my biggest challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of danced around this, but I think your certainty in these uncertain times is what's helping your buyers and sellers navigate, right? You know exactly what to do, how to do it, and how to price it. You're not afraid to tell somebody a home's overpriced when you show it to them, that type of thing. But you hit a nerve with me, and that's other agents. And, I think you and I are both kind of the same that way, in that this business is just full of the circus has been in town the last 2.5 years because of the COVID market, and it's brought all the clowns with it, and everybody's gotten their license, and it's been hell, right? Give me some examples of things that you're seeing out there that are it's like beating your head against the wall sometimes with these agents. I know it's always unresponsiveness, and I get a lot of lies about how, I've got another party interested, right? We're going to get multiple offers on this property. It's been sitting there for 45 days, and suddenly they're going to get multiple offers. What are you seeing?
One of my transactions, the agent signed the offer and sent it back, but a bunch of stuff had been crossed out. And I was like, well, that's not an accepted offer. You altered the legal document. That's a counter offer that you just sent me back. And she was trying to say, well, it's done deal. I was like, well, no, it's not. You can't just cross things out. And I just said, well, we're going to look at more properties this weekend. So either figure it out or, and sure enough, like a day later, she sent it back corrected with things not crossed out. And then, that same agent, we just needed the simple question of, is the seller a foreign person? Are they a U.S. resident? For tax reasons, that always has to be disclosed on the listing documents, the disclosures, the offer, to prevent, for tax reasons. So, and it took us over a week to get the answer, is the seller foreign? Like, just not even so I don't know if that agent is full-time or if they're, I don't know. It was just the weirdest thing. And to have that long of a delay, I have buyers that wanted to look at like an $800,000 or $900,000 property that's been on the market for 3 months. I emailed the agent twice in 1 week asking for some specific information. There was no supplements uploaded, so we didn't have disclosures. We didn't have X, Y, and Z. Just nothing. So I just told him, I said, well, there's a reason that's not selling, and I don't know what that agent's doing.
See, they could get away with this the last 2.5 years because you could just put the sign in the yard, take a photo, put it in the MLS, and it would sell, right? And then the contracts didn't matter how they were written. They were just crappy, contracts not worth the paper they were written on, and they just get to closing because people wanted to close, right? Well, now I'm seeing even experienced agents not know how to navigate a real estate contract. I just had one very experienced, probably more experienced than me, not understand how earnest money was refundable or not refundable. And my seller ended up keeping $25,000 of their client's earnest money because of their mistake and not understanding Minnesota contract law. So we didn't have to do that. We shouldn't say we. Most agents didn't have to do that in the past 2.5 years because it was just, I just put the deal together on a napkin and it's going to get to closing because everybody wants to get the deal done, right? Everybody's just excited. So now I think during these uncertain times, as people start to really get their buyer's remorse setting in and the purchase agreement isn't structured the way it should be, there's opportunities to walk away that maybe weren't there a year ago. I don't know. I've seen more people walk away from transactions this year than ever before. I don't know if it's just something in the water, but I just, you watch one media outlet and the sky's falling and the other media outlet, everything's great.
I think agents, they're just they're willing to even throw their own clients under the bus to try to get a deal done. Or, when I'm negotiating things against other agents on whether that be a listing or if I'm representing the buyer, and the stuff the agent will say or do, I'm like, you just cost your client $15,000. With the slip of a tongue, whether it was intentional or not, or, there's no confidentiality all of a sudden. And it's like that agent just is like, hey, I want to get this under contract. It's like, well, did your sellers tell you could do that? And it makes me want to go, it makes me just want to keep working because I feel so bad for these consumers that, that just get stuck working with a realtor. And part of it could be their own fault, right? Like maybe they never asked them the simple basic question, like, how many homes have you sold in the last year? Right. Do you know what you're doing? You would think it's scary that, people are buying and selling their most expensive assets. They just hire Aunt Susie's college roommate, Catherine, without ever being like, hey, Catherine.
Have you ever sold a house?
Have you ever listed a house in this county before?
Yeah.
And oftentimes not.
Right.
And then that's where I think realtors get a bad name, is because people don't even just do the easiest due diligence, right? I mean, when someone's buying a car for $30,000, they'll research the hell out of that for weeks and weeks. I know. Or a laptop, they'll do all this research, and it's like, oh, but it's just a $500,000 house I'm going to buy. Well, why do my due diligence and asking these questions from people? And so, I mean, these agents, like I had a listing. I don't know, I think it was like $325, and we got 3 offers. 2 of them were for $330 and 1 of them was for $345. I go to my sellers and I'm like, holy cow, like that's crazy. Yeah. That's way more. They weren't even expecting anything above that $330 mark, We already had 2 people that came in $5,000 above, and then some sorry sucker writes $20,000 above. and I go to my sellers and I'm like, well, I guess we don't even have to talk about which one you're going to take. And what sucks about that is that buyer to this day still thinks, man, my realtor did such a great job. We won in multiples. We, and they're maybe referring their friends and family to that agent, and they have no idea that, had that agent structured that offer differently, they could have gotten that offer for $331.
Right.
So that agent actually cost them $14,000, which is a lot of money to anybody. But then when you're in that entry-level price point of a first-time home buyer, that could be the difference of you being able to sell your house in a year or 2 or not. You're not paying $14,000 off super fast. Yeah. And so that's, like I said, it just makes me want to keep going because I feel bad for people. And I'm like I said, to this day, they still think their agent did a great job and, got them the house, and they have no idea that agent actually just kind of screwed them over.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm like you. There's days I want to just throw in the towel and give up in this business because it's just like, how can it get any worse and dumber than this, right? And there's other days you look in the mirror and you're like, well, the business needs more professionals, right? We need more people like us. And there's good ones out there, but it's sad. I'll give you I think I might have had the dumbest question I've ever had asked in my almost 25 years in the business.
Was it from me?
No. I was sitting at home on a beautiful Sunday evening. We'd just taken some stuff off the smoker and getting ready to sit down and have a nice dinner around 7 o'clock. And I got a phone call from an agent. He was in a panic and couldn't find the front door. So, we hang lock boxes on the front door. So you typically walk to that front door and you open the lock box and you get in, and he just could not find the front door. So he said, there's no lock box. There's no lock box on the door. I said, well, where are you standing? He said, I'm standing in the back of the house. I said, well, we hang lock boxes on the front door. So that might have been, that might have taken the award for dumbest question I've ever asked. Do you have any that can beat that?
One weird thing, and I don't know what it is, like I said, I've been listing a lot of properties, and a lot of them are estates. for some reason. I don't know why, but a lot of them are, a sister inherited her brother passed away and she inherited his hobby farm, or parents passed away. It's their parents' property, and the seller has never occupied the property, never lived there, barely visited the damn place. I can answer the obvious things, right? Like where things are, maybe how, but when it gets into like, how are things maintained? When was this last done? When was this last done? Weird questions. And it's like, well, it's an estate. The seller has no idea. Right. They don't even have a key for the place probably. Right. So, I mean, and and these agents still would just kind of keep asking these like really in-depth questions. And of course I'll do what I can to answer them, and sometimes it's just, I mean, like I said, these agents just kind of, I don't know. I wish I could say like, I'm not even surprised anymore, but like, I'm always just
same. Yeah.
Further surprised.
Yeah. Like, how can we get any dumber?
Almost every 2 days. Yeah. Like I feel like I've heard it all, seen it all from these agents, and and everybody always talks about like maybe their line of work, whatever they're doing. They're like, we need less regulation. We don't need it. We don't need the government or anybody getting in here and telling us what to do. And I'm like, gosh, we need more regulation. Right. I wish we had something more than some, BS continuing ed that you can just do in front of your laptop every 2 years, because everyone just clicks through it, passes the test without even reading it because it's so easy. And it's too easy to become licensed, to help somebody buy and sell their most expensive investments they will ever make in their life. And that's what's scary.
I agree. Yeah. So transitioning into, I just want to talk a little bit about, I know you don't get into this, and I think that's probably one of your good traits is you just kind of live in the moment, right? You don't get into what's the market going to do? What does it look like next year? And a lot of times we'll have our meetings on Tuesdays, and I'll talk a little bit about, guys, I think it's going to rain next year. Put your umbrella away and get ready for rain, and kind of sock some money away and be prepared. What do you think the market's going to look like? Here we are entering almost fourth quarter of 2023 and into first quarter of 2024. It's like the next 6 months. What are your predictions?
What, rates just went up again, right? Yeah. So the national
like
average
7.25 or something, right?
Highest it's been in however long.
Right. Like 30 years.
I don't know. I just feel like interest rates are not hitting us like people assume they will. And I'll tell my buyers all day long, I'll take a 20% interest rate gladly and not overpay on a property.
Thank you. Yes.
By $70,000. Because we go back 2-3 years ago when these properties were legitimately getting 30, 50 offers on some. Right. And I mean, these people are, well, interest rates are so low, and all this. And I'm like, yeah, but you can always change your interest rate. You can always fix that when they go back down. You can't, the sellers already cashed their money. They're gone.
What you paid is what you paid.
Yeah,
right?
You can't take back that $60,000 that you overpaid. You waived your appraisal, you waived X, Y, and Z. So it's almost, I don't know, maybe it's better for the consumer to have a little higher interest rate because they're more cautious with what they're doing.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just got so crazy.
Well said.
So, like I said, rates are going up, but rent's not going down. I have a rental property, and my renter just told me they're not going to renew their lease. They're relocating, and so I reposted it for rent, and I just jacked up the rent price just to see what would happen. I'm not in a hurry to rent it out at all, but I'm just getting flooded with people
crazy
that want to see it. Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, people are willing to pay that for rent. But so that's what I'm saying, interest rates are going up, but rent's not going down.
Right.
And it's really hard to know, you know what? So next year, election year, right? So maybe rates will be pushed down a little bit. I don't know. I have no idea.
Like I said, to just not pay attention to that and just kind of live in the moment of what the market is. The market presents opportunities no matter what the market is. The market is what it is. It's just, I think it's more uncertain now than it's ever been. And I think you're able to provide that certainty to your clients right now. And I don't know if that's has just come with time for you. You've just hit that sweet spot in your career where you are confident enough in your abilities and your experience, and that you're able to convey that to the consumer. And I think they're just like, oh, this is the guy I want, driving the ship here through these rough waters right now, because I think that's kind of the times we're in right now, and I think that's why we're having some success. Anything else you want to add about as far as what the market's doing, what you're seeing, what we can do, what the buyers or sellers should be aware of right now in this market?
Yeah, don't overprice your property.
Price is a big thing right now.
Yeah.
Price is a challenge right now, I think.
That's tough too. Like, you've had a few, and I've definitely had some this year where they're hard to price.
Yep.
So, if it's an end unit townhome, yeah, you can find comps and you can pretty much pick down to the dollar of what it should sell for, which is exactly what I just did last weekend on that one. I totally expected it to go pretty much exactly where it did. And then when you have these unique properties and you get acreage involved or unusual architectural styles, it's really hard to find comps.
It is.
And then you got to get into the whole conversation of appraisers. That's another whole part. Like, I do this full time and a little more in depth, I think, than most appraisers ever are going to do. Everyone puts so much weight behind an appraisal, right? It's just checking for fraud is really what it's meant to do.
Right.
It's not, was it sunny that morning? Did the appraiser's spouse yell at them before they left for work? Right. Because that will drastically affect your appraised value.
Somebody peeing your Cheerios this morning.
Right. I mean, my own property that I was buying, I had an appraisal done and it appraised like $75,000 or $80,000 low. And it shouldn't have. Yeah. And the lender reordered an appraisal. 10 days later, it appraised at value. Yeah. So people just put a lot of weight behind the appraisers.
It's an opinion.
Yeah, it's an opinion of value that day.
Get 10 appraisers, 10 different opinions.
Yeah.
And one thing, I think to your point on appraisals, appraisers just look at the hard facts, square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, year built, 1-story, 2-story. They don't take into consideration what you and I see that buyers want, like, in a home. Does that make sense, right? Like, I just sold one that had absolutely magnificent views of the St. Croix River. I'm like, breathtaking. I don't know how you put a price on these views. Appraiser can't put a price on them. A buyer will, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So you can't put that in an appraisal. So it'll be interesting to see where that appraisal comes in, because it's, he's just going to back up and say, well, we just have this house that's, this many square feet, this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms in this city. Here are the comps. Well, there aren't any comps. There's no such, there's not even a relevant sale we can talk about that has anything like that property. So yeah, I think appraisers and appraisals are very challenging in this market.
Overall, I feel like my listings are selling for, my sellers are ecstatic. Like, it's selling for much more than they had actually thought. Even though everyone, market's so crazy, it's hard to find a house. I mean, or interest rates are high, it's a bad time to sell, it's a bad time to buy. And everything I'm listing, people are getting these great, super fair offers, for both parties. Yeah, your interest rates may be a little higher. We'll refinance that when you get a chance. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. You're still buying this house for $50,000 less than you would have 2.5 years ago when people were fighting in the front yard to try to get their offer accepted. So I don't know. I think the market's strong, and I don't have a negative thought of the future at all. Good. Obviously it's tough where we live. We freeze for 6 months out of the year. So we're a lot more seasonal, our business, but we seem to buck that trend typically.
Cool. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. I'll let you get back to it. I know you have a full day of showings and listing appointments.
So. It's 100 degrees today, so.
Get at it. Crush it. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thanks.